I want to make sure we have time for Rusty, and so I want to say now, Carl and Nancy, thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you. And can we have a round of applause for Michelle? This is her hotel I will be around to answer more questions. I really love questions. But I really want you all to hear from Rusty. So thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, this is Cindy's show. This is Cindy's night. So thank you, Cindy, so much for giving me a couple of minutes to introduce myself to all of you. I think I know quite a few of you, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rusty Talbot, and I am running for the 1st District Senate seat in New Hampshire here. I care really deeply about the North Country, and I'm one of the strongest evangelists, I think, around of coming here and spending time here and just loving all of the amazing resources and people that we have up here. And I think that I want to run a campaign and be a senator who focuses on the issues that actually help the lives of people who live here in the North Country. I have no interest in focusing on national issues which divide us and which cause all sorts of issues. Instead, I really do want to focus on local issues and focus on those things which matter. And that, honestly, as Cindy was talking about, there are an awful lot of those challenges which we can get some bipartisan agreement on, and ways that we can move forward to help with the things that we all recognize are really important, many of which Cindy has been talking about tonight. To get to know me a bit better, I think it's useful to recognize that you can tell an awful lot about someone and what they care about by how they spend their time. So let me talk a little bit about how I spend my time. I own the North Country Climbing Center. It's an indoor rock climbing gym with a guiding component to it as well, where we take people out to rock climb and ice climb in these amazing mountains here. The amazing world-class climbing here is something which has been the strongest force drawing me to this region. And one thing which really amazed me about 10 years ago was that while climbing on Cannon Cliff, climbing at Rumney, climbing at all these other areas around here is truly world-class. And actually, there's people who come from Europe to climb at Rumney. Folks drive up from Washington, D.C., or down from Montreal, or up from Boston, or any of these other places to climb on Cannon Cliff. As of about 10 years ago, I almost never saw locals climbing on our local crags. And to me, that made me realize that was like, imagine someone growing up and living in Aspen or Vail and never really even considering going skiing. That's how it feels to me. And I felt, look, what is missing here is an entry point so folks can learn the skills and learn the equipment, get to use the equipment that they would need to be able to go outside. And the thing that's missing there is an indoor climbing gym. And so it was because of that that I built the North Country Climbing Center. It's been open for about 10 years now. And my vision was to not only have a place where people can learn these specific skills, which can then translate to the outside, but to really be sort of a third place. You know, not home, not work, but that place where you go and you feel comfortable and you can be you and you can improve, and where everyone knows your name, and if they don't, you can ask them and then they'll get to know your name, right? And 10 years later, something I'm super proud of and very impressed with is that the more I'm seeing, there's people who have never climbed before, who now climb multiple times a week at the climbing gym. They're learning to get outside and enjoy this amazing resource here. So really, I view that as something that's a mission-driven business that is all about building this community of climbing and outdoor recreation in general, and adoring the environment that we're in. But I'm much more than just a climbing business owner. That's not how I spend my time. I believe that a thriving arts scene is really critical to a thriving community. And so I spend a lot of time working with the Colonial Theater in Bethlehem, and currently I'm the president of that board, and I'm super impressed with them. Many of you, I'm sure, all go to the Colonial and love the Colonial as much as I do. We see all sorts of acts, live acts, and movies that otherwise would never be seen in a rural area, right? That's one of those great things. I believe strongly that neighbors should help neighbors, so I'm a volunteer firefighter. I'm on the Sugar Hill Fire Department, and that's one of those things that, once again, just because I think that we should be able to help each other to the extent that we can, that's one of those activities that I like to do. Similarly, I think that spending time in the mountains and recreating and hiking is something which is rejuvenating and wonderful for people. I think it also helps us recognize how an amazing resource this is, and people should feel comfortable and safe to be able to go do that and recognize that if they slip or fall or have an accident, someone's going to be there to get them. And so that's why I'm on the PEMI Search and Rescue team, and I'm now the captain of that team, so I spend an awful lot of time hiking up in the mountains and helping carrying people off who had a bad day. I also believe that students should be able to achieve their potential and make it into higher ed and be able to afford that. And so, again, trying to think of some way that I can help with that. I'm part of the Littleton Rotary Club, and so actually 2 weeks from tomorrow night we're having our annual fundraiser over at Iron Furnace Brewery. I recommend folks come to that. But I'm really involved with the Rotary Club and the Scholarship Fund, which last year we managed to fundraise almost $40,000 to give out to local students within our service area at the 6 different high schools that serve this. So again, all of these are just examples of someone I believe, even though I have never before run for office, I believe that I've spent an awful lot of time working for this community and working to improve the lives of the people who live here and the people who come and visit here. I also think that outdoor recreation is really central to the future economy, the current and future economy of the entire North Country. And that's all the way from the Canadian border all the way down to Rumney, which is actually Rumney, as far south as it is part of District 1. I believe that is, whether you're talking about rock climbing, ice climbing, skiing, any of those things, motorized recreation, that's something which, especially north of us, is a major economic driver. There's an awful lot to be said for the recreation economy, and as a small business owner, I know an awful lot about that and have been very involved with that. So I hope I have your votes, and I am looking forward to hearing from you because I want to learn about issues more deeply, and I want to talk to you all individually as well. So anyway, thank you very much for the time to talk tonight. And answer them.
I have a question.
Please.
Would you comment on your reach into COAS? Because COAS is something we have to think about in this district, and I have the impression that you have a good shot in COAS, that you have connections and contacts there that will help you in this race.
Yeah, so there's several elements to that. I think probably the best contacts that I have are both from the Leadership New Hampshire program, which I was part of back in 2019, and actually there's a number of folks spread out throughout the whole state, probably the best network that I've developed throughout the state, including a bunch of folks up in Coas County who I'm connected to through that. And those have been a number of my first conversations about wading into this, or with folks with that. Also, in terms of, there was a UNH program that I did for growing my business, which included a bunch of other entrepreneurs up in Coas, whether you're talking about up in Colebrook, over in Gorham, in various different areas that have started new businesses, some of which have been blowing up lately really well, which I'm pretty excited about for them. And so I've got business contacts around as well. The third area is with the Granite Outdoor Alliance and the outdoor recreation industry in general, where I definitely have some contacts throughout. But that being said, where I do think I have a good foundation for that, I'm in the process of meeting more and more folks up there throughout the district, but especially up in the north, because I don't live over there. And as we all know, the North Country is absolutely not a monolith. One thing I find so fascinating, talking to folks who live, in the deep south, somewhere south of Exit 32, they often talk about this this place that is the North Country, as if it is a single entity with people who are all of a similar mindset. And as we all know, you go from one town to the next town, and there's radical differences, right? I mean, people just have different life experiences, the economy is different, the sources of jobs are radically different. So anyway, so I have a lot to learn, but I do have a good foundation with it. Yeah.
Earlier, Cindy spoke about the Dalton landfill, and I assume that you have been following the efforts of the last 5 years to prevent that from occurring. Could you speak about what you know about the plans and how you might interact with DES and work with other senators to prevent that from occurring?
That is a very precise question, and one which I have to just basically say that I do not know how I would interact with DES. That's not the type of interaction that I have had to date. However, in terms of interacting with other legislators and other folks involved in this, I would want to basically point out what I think all of us feel, which is imagine the importance of the natural resources to the economy and to the area in particular. Talk about why is there a need, understand what the need is relative to the use. Honestly, I'm against it. I don't think that there's an argument to be made for why it should be there. I think that as John and others have talked about, and Cindy knows way more about this than many of us in here, I'm sure, that there's lots of ways to meet the needs of trash without having something which abuts the first state park in the state, and without tackling that kind of thing. It just seems like a bad idea. Fundamental. Yes, Sue.
John, I will say that Rusty, I think people ought to check with John because we did a fine job in the legislature today. Things passed in the House that we needed to have passed. And I would encourage anyone in this area that knows somebody up in COAS, join us. Introduce Rusty. We need to make sure that we have a conscientious, caring senator to represent us in District 1. So if you have anyone you can connect him with, go for it.
And to represent all of us.
All of us, yes, represent all of us. And if you lived in Littleton, you know what that means.
And actually, just sort of to follow up on that, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot recently is how, one of the big differences between living in a city or a populated area and living out here in smaller communities is that if you live in a city, it is very, very easy to only be surrounded by the echo chamber of the people who you agree with and who agree with you and who share your background and education and values and all these things. You're online, you can make sure that bubble stays put, and in real life, traveling around, you can live in that bubble and only interact with those folks. Up here, because it is such a small community, because we interact with folks, we have to interact with folks who we disagree with. And I think that's healthy. I think that's the way it should be. I think we need to make sure that we stop othering each other, that we in fact recognize that, just like Cindy was saying, everyone wants to have the same goals, right? Well, pretty much. We all want to have our kids have great education. We all want to have a roof over our heads. We all want to be healthy. It's just that the balance of what those various goals are is very different for some people. And when we interact with them regularly and we can reopen that level of communication, I think that's the first step, right? And we can do that here, and I think we can be a blueprint for the rest of the country to be able to do that. And that's one of the things I love about small town North Country, New Hampshire. So anyway, enough said. Come and grab me and ask me questions.
All right, so I've been doing this a little bit longer than Rusty has because this is how you can tell, because he ended his speech without telling you that he can't do this unless you support him.
That's true.
And you're all going to hear more from him about that, but that is just the reality. It takes a lot of money to get the message out. To do a mailing, it takes thousands of dollars. I don't know how much for a Senate district, but when I was doing executive council, it's about $30,000 per mailing. You've got to do about 6 or 7 of them. It's a lot of money to run one of these races. And if we want him, and we want people all around this district to know who he is, they're going to have to see it in their mailboxes and in their digital ads. And so I just urge you all to support Rusty. And I will also say that if you haven't donated to my campaign, you know, we are going. Kelly Ayotte raised $2.7 million on her first filing. Right. And I don't think that's even close to the amount of money it's going to take to convince the women of our state that she should be the one making their reproductive health care decisions for them. But we're going to have to get the word out about her. So I urge you to contribute and be as generous as you can be. The individual limit is $15,000, so don't give me any more than that. But I appreciate all of you for being here tonight and for all of your support. Thank you.
Thank you.